With the country deep in reflection on the political events of the past week, including the release of the State of Capture report, as well as the withdrawal of charges against Minister of Finance Pravin Gordhan, the Tripartite Alliance member, the South African Communist Party, may have reached its breaking point with the ANC's insistence on keeping President Jacob Zuma as leader of the nation. And joining us to discuss the recent events and whether these will lead to the SACP breaking away from the alliance and contesting elections on its own is spokesperson for the SACP, Alex Mashilo. Dr. Mashilo, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Once again. A difficult year and difficult recent few weeks, isn't it?
Very, very difficult.
It's like you're fighting fires here, you're fighting this, you're fighting. Do you know, with respect to you, where the Tripartite Alliance is going to? Because it's, it's events outside, looks like events outside the alliance are dictating what you should focus on.
Events outside of the alliance are dictating what we should focus on. That is consistent with the history of our struggle. The Tripartite Alliance was born out of events taking place out of the alliance itself, therefore bringing together all alliance components to maximize their strength in order to achieve change. And currently in the alliance, the most important thing is to discuss how to strengthen and unite not only the African National Congress, but the ANC and the rest of the alliance. But that on its own is not enough. The recent local government elections have showed that without the unity of the social and political base of the ANC, there will come a time when the ANC is dislodged from power. Currently, that is what we are concentrating on.
All right. The public protector did her work and released what she calls State of Capture report, to use the proper title, right? SACP, what is your reaction to what is contained in that report? Do you accept it, or do you think that it must be taken on review?
Firstly, we must point out that if the mode of operation of the alliance was up to date, we could not have reached where we are right now. I must say the public protector conducted the investigation, and I think if you remember very well, she asked for financial support from the National Treasury, and something of about the value of 1.5 million or more was given to her, only to arrive at the conclusion that the SACP offered for free. If you recall, the SACP introduced the term corporate capture in our national discourse in November 2014. It took some time before this could become a national discourse involving all other political organizations, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, and so forth. Then it was the SACP again that said, in order to deal with this problem, we are proposing that the president must establish a judicial commission of inquiry. The reason was, at the later stage, the ANC established a mechanism for investigation, but assessment by the Communist Party was that if you were to investigate this complex problem, you needed massive capacity that was not there at Lituli House. You needed lawyers, you needed forensic auditors, you needed investigators, you needed a very big machinery. You also needed to protect witnesses. So people were not confident if they stand up and say, we have this particular information, but we can give it only on condition that we have been protected. So these are the things we looked at. And this is the reason why we were the first organization to call for a judicial commission of inquiry. That did not happen until the public protector stepped in from other people complaining to investigate the issue. The conclusion was to take us back to what the SACP said. That was the need for a judicial commission of inquiry. At that time, all political parties in parliament rejected the call by the SACP. They would only accept it when it becomes a remedial action by the public protector.
Well, the party that is in charge of government, the Tripartite Alliance included, those are the political forces with much more influence on the whole problem that the public protector was investigating, this of state of capture, isn't it? I mean, let me illustrate the point. The Tripartite Alliance meets when it meets, and the different formations that make up the Tripartite Alliance also meet on a regular basis and then come together at some point. What would the SACP's view be if it were to learn that some of the decisions that are taken at the alliance meetings come from Saxon world, from the Gupta family, for instance?
That is a problem, and that is why the SACP was and remains in the forefront of the struggle to challenge corporate capture, not only of critical organs of the state, state-owned enterprises, but also of political structures, including inside the trade union movement. Because things have changed.
Are you suggesting the trade unions themselves may have been captured as well?
Definitely there are problems in the trade union movement. There is what the SACP calls business unionism. When you go to congresses of trade unions where leaders are elected, these days you will find too many people contesting for positions. When you look at the T-shirts that delegates are wearing, you will see names of big corporations having sponsored those T-shirts. Those are formal sponsorships. But in return for business, in return for organizing workers, you see, workers for the financial sector are a big market. If you take a simple pay slip of a worker and study the deductions that are made on the workers, including garnishee orders, you will see the names of companies that are benefiting from workers. Some of those companies that are benefiting those resources from workers receive their connections from shop stewards, from union officials. That one day when you arrive at a union meeting at work, one shop steward just says, no, we are not happy with this or that medical aid or this or that service. Only to find that in the background, this person was meeting with a given company, and this person is now here to change the service provider in return for something. If you go to FNB Stadium, where there are football matches, or if you go to major events, you will see trade union leaders sitting in the suits there. Those suits are owned by the big banks, ABSA, Standard Bank, FNB. You ask yourself, how did union leaders make it in these suits? Who are the business people who organized the connections for these union leaders to make it in these suits? And what are they gaining in return? So when you talk about corporate capture, you are talking about a wider problem that we must fight politically in our organizations in order to defend internal democracy. Once we are able to defend internal democratic processes and make sure that all of our organizations are free from corporate capture, then we will be better positioned to deal with the infiltration of corporate capture in the state, because it does not start in the state. Let me give another example with an opposition party. What do you make of a leader of an opposition party, Musi Maimane, who received a sponsorship from a particular corporation to contest elections inside of the DA, and in Parliament, where he was required to disclose that sponsorship, decided not to disclose? It will be to your own peril to conclude that was only an oversight.
But
it is a relationship with a cooperation.
Sure. And that's a broader subject, right, which requires its own discussion. Let's bring it back to the Tripartite Alliance. The SACP, not so long ago, said that it had advance warning that certain members of cabinet were going to be dismissed by the president. And it appears on the insistence of influence from elsewhere. Is it correct?
We did say that, and we said it in order to prevent it from happening.
Yes.
And in order to send a message to the public that when this happens, this and this and this have happened. The SACP has a serious problem with the manner in which members of the Gupta family are playing in our body politic. How do we explain, really, that a private jet by this family and landed at the military base of our country. How do we explain that?
So, where do you think the influence lies these days in the tripartite alliance, at least from the perspective of the Communist Party, in relation to the Gupta family? Do you believe you have the same amount of influence, or yours is a smaller nyana influence, or it doesn't even count for that matter anymore?
We cannot work on the basis of claims. The reason being that we are in the struggle. That is the real theater of struggle. And in the struggle, we are not alone. There are other forces. The outcome at every moment is determined not only by what we are doing and the amount of strength that we have. It is also determined by what those who are opposed to us are doing and by their strength. But it is the balance of forces that makes things move in a certain way. That is why you see the SACP is campaigning more and more as an independent political formation outside of our alliance, where we don't agree on particular issues. We exercise our independence, like we did put forward the motion for a judicial commission of inquiry on corporate capture. That was not accepted. We continued to campaign. Today, that matter is at a very different level. And we are looking forward to taking forward from there.
Do you believe it will happen, the judicial commission of inquiry anyway?
Let us say this. If the president does not investigate this problem, the matter won't end there. A future president may investigate it, and there will always be consequences should wrongdoing be found. We better act now.
Now, there are other parts of the ANC, the Youth League, for instance, the Women's League, and the MK veterans, who say they stand behind the president, that this was a fishing expedition. They don't actually recognize the state of capture report, and their view is that it must be taken on judicial review because there's nothing to investigate. A serious opposing view to the view that you have as the SACP. And I'm sure some are already saying, if this SACP is not happy with what's going on now, they may as well go it alone.
Let us say this. The ANC is what it is, not because only of non-communist ANC members. The ANC is a national movement of all of our people, including communists. In fact, in its history, there are periods it could not have survived without the Communist Party. In fact, this is one of those periods. If the ANC can push forward, it will need, because it defines itself in its strategy and tactics, not only as the leader of its own members, but also as the leader of the alliance and of our society. If the ANC can provide leadership to the alliance and to the society as a whole, the alliance and society as a whole must give the ANC leadership.
As matters stand, where do you see the SACP going? Is it seriously considering breaking away from the tripartite alliance, or are there specific conditions that you believe should be met for the SACP to stay within the alliance? After all, we're 2 years away from national elections, 2019.
First and foremost, it is our considered view as the SACP that the workings of the alliance must be looked at afresh. The situation has changed. It is no longer the same when you compare the period 94 coming this side and 1994 going backward. The workings of the alliance must keep pace with the ever-changing times. Not only the alliance must remain relevant, but its mode of operation must become relevant. The alliance must function effectively and optimally, and not only from a point of view that the ANC is the only political organization in the alliance. There is the SACP. Moving forward, we have got to agree on how we take our joint programs and perspectives forward together, acting as one single force. Because any divisions can result in serious consequences for the revolution. But I must also openly say, within the SACP, there is an increasing body of view by both the younger and older generation of our members that says the SACP must go to the ballot. And going to the ballot is not to break the alliance. No, that's not what they are saying. The ANC stands for election. The alliance is not breaking. So that what members are saying, those members who are raising this view inside of the ANC, is that let's go to the ballot without breaking the alliance. As to how that will work, it will require the SACP to discuss. That is not the official position of the party, by the way. What we have released this week is a discussion document that discusses the disadvantages and the advantages of going to the ballot. That paper also discusses the advantages and disadvantages of leaving the alliance to function the way it is. Our National Congress, which is scheduled to take place from 10 to 15 July 2017, is going to reflect on these issues. According to our declaration as the party, we must not leave anything without discussing it. Every 5 years we are going to a Congress. Congress must review our alliances and everything. It must deal with their weaknesses and come up with the way forward. That is what is going to happen.
Thanks very much, Dr. Mashilo, for talking to us. And of course, the conversation is still ongoing. We've got a couple of weeks to go before the Judicial Commission is instituted or not instituted. So we'll wait and see.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. That's the spokesperson of the South African Communist Party, Alex Mashilo. As you know, there are tensions already within the Tripartite Alliance, and every day there are new developments, and we'll be watching this story very closely.